Well, good evening, everyone. It's episode 2 of the Steph Said It podcast. My name is Stephen B, and I am the host. And as Shannon Sharp says, that's a tongue twister. I am the proprietor here at Steph Said It podcast. So excited that you all took the time to hang out with me on today. Good evening for those of you who are watching me live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for those of you who may be catching me on the playback. I am so excited to have you all a part of the show with me on this evening. Now, this is what I need you all to do for me real quick. I need you all to take a moment. We are live on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And I'm asking all of you to please, here we go with that again. I'm asking you all, please take a moment, like these posts, share them with your friends, let everybody know. Steph Said It is live. Stephen is live right now, and you do not want to miss tonight's episode. This one is going to be epic. I am really, really glad to have you all a part of this journey with me. Listen, if you are watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, please get involved with the conversation. Go ahead and let me see the comments. Let me see the likes. Let me see the hearts. Let me see the love. Let me know that you all are here with me in this process. If we have sound problems, let me know we have sound problems. If it's not clear, let me know it's not clear. The more we do it, the more we're going to get this thing right. Now, I'm excited about what we have going on. And for those of you who caught my first episode, thank you all so much for all the love and support that you showed me on my birthday last week. It was really exciting to be on here for the first time, sharing my thoughts and views and my opinions and all. And listen, we got another letter on tonight. This one is a little more aggressive. This one is going to hit closer to home for me. But we're gonna get to it in just a moment. So I've got some really special people who are watching me right now, and I'm so glad you all are here. Um, Before we get into it, though, I do want to take a moment to shout out my sponsors for this evening's podcast. Tonight's podcast is sponsored by hashtag I'm It. The name says it all. Hashtag I'm It is your premier graphic design and pro web design, graphic design and web design company. Anything you need to put on paper or on any digital print, hashtag I'm It. The name says it all. You can contact them at 601-397-0601 or send an email to hashtag I'm It at gmail.com. And for those of you who hadn't already picked up on it, hashtag I'm It is actually my company. It is a Stephen T. Brandon Incorporated company, and all of the graphics that you see, all of the fun stuff that you got going on, that all came through the vision of hashtag I'm It. Now we have a letter, and this letter is a doozy. I do want to give a few more moments. I want a few more people to get into the room, but we are not going to hang out too long. But this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have some fun tonight. Um, Again, thank you all so much for taking the time to hang out with your boy tonight. This is really special for me. This is really special. And I'm excited about it. This is a different journey. And the one thing that I am trying to do is create a space where people feel safe to express their views and their opinions, to express how they feel and what they want to talk about. And the tagline for the Steph Said It podcast is, if you ask me, I'll tell you. That's the bottom line. If you want to know what I think about it, just ask me. I promise you, I will be straightforward. I will be honest, and I'm gonna be fair. All right. So, thank you guys again for joining me on this journey. I am still waiting. I'm waiting for a few more people to get in, but I'm not gonna labor. We're gonna go ahead and jump on into this letter. So here we go. Dear Steps Edit Podcast, I hope this message finds you well. I am reaching out to seek advice on a personal matter that has been weighing heavily on my mind. Over the years, I have experienced what is commonly referred to as church hurt. This experience ranges from feelings this these experiences range from feeling judged or ostracized to encountering abuse of power by church leaders. Unfortunately, these experiences have led to deep seated trust issues with church leaders. I find myself questioning the motives and integrity of those in position of authority within the church. This lack of trust has made it challenging for me to fully engage in church activities and form meaningful relationships within the congregation. I am writing to you in hopes of seeking guidance on how to navigate these feelings of hurt and betrayal. Interesting. How can one begin to heal from past church related traumas and rebuild trust in church leaders? Are there specific strategies or resources that you would recommend for someone in my situation? I understand that healing is a personal journey, but I believe that hearing perspectives from individuals like yourself who may have encountered similar challenges could provide valuable insight and support. Thank you for considering my request for advice on this sensitive topic. I greatly appreciate the work that you do in fostering open conversations about faith and spirituality. I look forward to any guidance or insight you may be able to offer on dealing with church hurt and rebuilding trust with church leaders. This is going to be good. Um, yeah, yeah, I have some experience with church hurt. And some of the things that I am going to say are not necessarily going to be popular, particularly to those in the church world. And I'm okay with that because this is my podcast, so I can say what I want to say. All right. Um, I am going to provide valuable information. I am going to provide personal information. And I'm going to do the best I can to talk about this one. All right. Here we go. Shots fired. Wait, turn my crickets off. As you all can tell, I have sound effects and I'm using every last one of them. I like my sound effects. So, dealing with church hurt. So, the first thing that I would say to someone who is dealing with any type of church hurt is the first thing you have to do is acknowledge that you have actually been hurt. Um, and then you have to figure out where that actual hurt came from. Was this legitimate church hurt, or was this from you having an expectation of the church or the individuals in the church that was not a fair expectation? That's number one. A lot of times people have the expectation that the church is going to be there to pay all your bills. When you get in a struggle, the church is going to be there to get you out of trouble. Um, and I'm gonna go more specific from the church in general, specifically to pastors. Every time somebody in your house gets sick, you expect the pastor to be there. And every time somebody in your house get in trouble, you expect the pastor to drop everything he or she got in their own life to be there for you. So the first thing I'm gonna tell you is you've got to determine if this was actual church hurt or if this was self-inflicted pain. In the book of Psalms, at this point, it would say Selah. That just means we're gonna let that one just marinate for a minute. Um, having been in church my whole life, different denominations, different experiences, uh, different reformations as they've been called. Um, I had to acknowledge that some of the things that I was trying to call church hurt was self-inflicted. These were things that I had expectations of that were my very own expectations, and not necessarily the expectations of or those things that should not have fallen in the responsibility of the church. Okay. So now that we've addressed that part, that first you got to acknowledge, who actually hurt you. Now this is the second part, and now we finna get into the good of the conversation. You got to first realize that there's a difference between the church and God, or the pastor and God. The pastor is not God. Hold on, I got an amen corner with me. Hold on a second. Uh-huh. Yeah. The pastor is not God. So you can't expect the pastor to be your God. And oftentimes we get in trouble because we try to make the pastor God. So that's number one. So the first thing that you have to do to acknowledge, um, or the first thing you have to do to start the process of getting over your church hurt, is to acknowledge that, number one, was this a self-inflicted hurt? Was this something that I imposed upon myself? Was this an expectation that I had on a group of people that was unrealistic? Am I being fair in what I'm blaming them for doing? Now, I will tell you, and again, my own personal experience, the church will hurt you. And when the church hurts you, the church hurts you bad, and the church hurts you deep, and the church make you want to use other words pertaining to the church. The church make you want to use words that's not in the Bible, or as I like to refer to them, Sunday school words. But so number one, you've got to make sure that it's not a self-imposed hurt. That's number one. Number two, you've got to remember that your pastor is not God. Now, the Bible does say that, and this is the Lord speaking, where he says, I will give you pastors after my own heart. Meaning, if you have a pastor who is seeking the heart of God and is pursuing the heart of God and has the motivation to be all that God called him or her to be, then that is a pastor who is in hot pursuit of the presence of God. And then from there, that pastor brings that pursuit into the congregation, which ignites a fire in the congregation to want to pursue the heart of God. But unfortunately, we have pastors who want to use the church as their own validation. A lot of times, in since this is February, and we in Black History Month, we gonna give a little Black history. In segregation times, and then during the times of heavy Jim Crow, the only place that a man had any type of respect or any type of authority was in the church. Outside of the church, he was boy. Outside of the church, he was. Well, this is my podcast, so I hope nobody get offended if I have some people of other races and nationalities. I'm gonna say it anyway. Outside of the church, he was boy. Outside of the church, he was nigga. Outside of the church, he was no good. Outside of the church, when white man walked up to him, he had to step down off the curb, or he had to look down, or he had to lower himself and make himself less because of the time that he lived in. And so oftentimes when he was in the church was the place where the man got any form of respect. Unfortunately, you have pastors today who have carried that same mentality into 2024, not 1824. So you have pastors who will try to use the church to validate who they are as a man. And that's unfortunate. You have church and even more so because we are a progressive people, you have women pastors. And you have women pastors who will try to use their platform to validate their place of authority. And so then you end up in spaces of manipulation. You end up in spaces of control. You end up in spaces of flat out lies. Um, and it is unfortunate. So the next thing you have to do when you acknowledge that that person is not your God, then until you can get healed or until you can begin your healing process, then you need to remove yourself from that space. Okay. Um, Now that's if you are still involved in the church that hurt you. Then you need to find you another church. This is the other part. The same way I say that the pastor is not your God, all churches are not the same. Are there pastors who steal money? Yes, there are pastors who steal money. Do all pastors steal money? No, all pastors don't steal money. One of the biggest frustrations for me growing up is my dad was a Baptist preacher. He always preached in country churches. And oh, that's a good comment right there. Hold on a second. I'm about to bring this one on the screen. Y'all bear with me one moment. I'm gonna share this one. This comment is from my 100, Elder Crystal Fraser Wilson. And it says, just because it happened at church only means that church was the location. We are dealing with unhealed people that you will find anywhere. Very good point. Very good point. Um, so I'm gonna come back to that in a second. I don't want to lose my train of thought, and I only have 10 more minutes or so. But when we were growing up, the church that we went to, anytime my dad bought or anytime my parents bought a new car, then we had the people in the church who were always saying, "Look what he doing with our money." And we would get into several conversations, and I've had several discussions where I told people, "Listen, them little $3 you put in the offering did not buy this car. The little $3 you put in the offering didn't even put gas in anybody's car. My mama and daddy got full-time jobs. My mama and daddy worked. So that's how we got a new car. Okay. So we ain't nobody taking your money. Okay. If anything, we put more money in the church than we getting from y'all. So back up off. Okay. Now I got that little rant out the way. I got that vent out the way. But you have people who are not doing what they're supposed to do with the Lord's money and the Lord's people. But you have to understand that no two churches are identical. I had a guy who was trying to bring me into a program once, and he asked me a question. He said, "Have you ever shopped at Walmart?" I said, "Yes, I have." He said, "Have you been to the Walmart on Highway 18?" I said, "Yes, I have." He said, "Was it a pleasurable experience?" I said, "If I could have avoided going in there, I probably would." He said, "Have you been to the Walmart in Madison?" Now, at this time, this Walmart was brand new. It was nice. It was clean. And I said, "Yeah, I have." He said, "Same company, two completely different experiences." I said, "You're absolutely right." And so it did make me think. My point for saying that is just because you had a bad experience in one church, that does not mean that will be the experience in every church that you go to. Hold on, let me bring my applause in. Say amen, somebody. Just because somebody abused you in one church, or just because somebody mishandled you in one church, that does not mean that that's going to be the experience at every church that you go to. I will say you need to go to church, find a church, and listen. In the world of post COVID, now you can go to 7 different churches all on the same Sunday. That's another conversation for another podcast. I'm not even talking about that today. Um, but we're talking about church hurt. And so, again, the first thing, acknowledge if this was self inflicted or if this was something that actually happened to you. Number two, you need to acknowledge that the pastor and the church is not God, which means you need to foster your own relationship and you need to know God for yourself. The Bible says, study to show yourself approved, a workman that needed not be ashamed. So you can rightly divide the word of truth. That don't mean you're gonna go out and start preach, praying, and prophesying to other people just so you can rightly divide the word of truth in your own house. And so you can decipher the things that are going on in your life in your own house, not necessarily for somebody else, but just for your own spiritual well-being and for your own spiritual health and for your own spiritual growth. Then you need to understand who God is and establish a relationship who God is to you. So after you acknowledge, whether or not this was self-inflicted, and then you realize it's not God, you understand that no two churches are the same. And so you remove yourself from the negative space and you find the place that is best for you. You find the place and you pray about it. Don't just church hop. Sometimes you just need to stop and say, okay, Lord, point me in the direction that I need to go. Show me where I need to be. But once we circle around all of that, and I got to go ahead and bring this thing on to a close. But once we circle all of that, the two things you need to do that are most important in dealing with church hurt is number one, forgive. Okay. Whoever hurt you, whoever did whatever they did to you, forgive them. There are two statements about unforgiveness that I like to talk about. The first one says unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's number one. Number two, and this is the one that I really like, is unforgiveness is like sitting in prison and serving a sentence for somebody else's crime. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. Whether or not they choose to whether or not they choose to apologize. A lot of times we get stuck on I'm waiting on an apology. Well, what if you don't get an apology? Then what? What if they don't apologize? Then what? What if they keep doing what they've been doing that caused the pain and the hurt and the offense in the first place? Then what? So you just gonna walk around carrying all of these unnecessary burdens while they are living their lives with no thought or concern about you. So forgive them. Is it an easy process? No, it's not, but it's necessary. Forgive them. Is it going to happen overnight? Nope, but it will happen. Forgive them. But what if they do it again? Forgive them. But what if you can come up with every what if? You can run every scenario. You can pull every play out of your playbook. You can talk about everything that you want to talk about. And at the end of the day, if you ask and step, and if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you what my statement to you is going to be is forgive them. So let me tell you, I'm gonna invite y'all into my world a little bit. There was a church that I was affiliated with for several years. I have I have been removed from that location for almost 11 years. I have no ill feelings towards the pastor or the church. However, for whatever reason, I am still a point of contention in said church. And I have people on this stream right now who can verify what I'm saying. Now, I'm not calling names because this is not what I'm here for. I'm not here to expose anybody. I'm here to help somebody. Um, I knew that I had forgiven. As a matter of fact, because this is the thing, church hurt and regular relationship hurt, they all fall in the same category. It's just a different group of people. Um, I knew when, after I got my divorce and, our relationship was what it was, and we dealt with the things that we dealt with, and we went through the things that we went through. And there was a point in the relationship uh, post relationship or post divorce where every time I would get a phone call, I would get sick to my stomach. Or every time I would get a phone call, I would cringe. Or every time I get a phone call, I would just start going through all kind of changes, not really understanding that I was at that point harboring unforgiveness. And I had a very good friend of mine. He told me, he said, you know that you have forgiven when it don't bother you no more. He said, and if the phone rings and you start getting sick to your stomach, don't answer the phone. But you know you are in a good space and you know you have forgiven when it don't hurt no more and it don't bother you no more. And I'm at the point now, it don't bother me no more. I'm hashtag unbothered, hashtag unmoved, hashtag forgiven. I prayed a prayer about 4 years ago, and I said, Lord, I want to forgive the way you have forgiven me. And I do not want you to forgive me the way I have forgiven. I'm gonna let that sit there for a little while. Because some of y'all gonna catch that on the playback. Some of y'all gonna need to watch this again and catch that one because you're gonna miss it on that first go round. I don't want God to forgive me the way I have forgiven people, because when we forgive people, we tend to still hold it over their head. Whereas when we have been forgiven by God, then he separates our transgressions from us as far as the east is from the west. So I don't ever have to worry about God reminding me about what I did in my past. I don't ever have to worry about God reminding me about the time he told me to do something and I didn't do it, because he blessed me anyway. He still woke me up the next morning. He still provided the things that I needed provisions for. And so I don't I don't want to be the one who holds somebody else's mistake to me over their head, because I don't want God to do that to me. And so when it comes to hurt, church hurt, relationship hurt, family hurt, friend hurt, coworker hurt, boss hurt, self hurt, child hurt, the formula is forgive. Forgive. Meaning I am going to take what you have done to me. I am going to take what you have done to me, and I'm going to separate it as far as the east is from the west as it relates to my relationship with you. Because if I value this relationship, then I'm not going to hold that against you. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to put myself in a condition, in a situation for you to do that to me again, because there's a thing called wisdom. But the biggest thing is you have to forgive. You have to forgive. That's number one. Number two is find somebody to talk to. Don't harbor the hurt. Let it go. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Take a note from Elsa's book from Frozen. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. But you need to talk to somebody who can help you through that process. Um, so I told y'all about my experience with the church, who I've forgiven. But it wasn't until probably last year, or maybe the year before last, maybe it's 2022, into 2022, going into 2023, I think it was. But because of that experience, I dealt with abandonment issues because everybody who I was connected to, all of my friends and all of my relationships and all of my acquaintances and everybody that I was closest to, 90% of the people in that church threw me away. Lit Literally threw me away. And it created problems in other relationships because it created trust issues. So one of the other things that it talked about in the letter was how church hurt can create trust issues. You cannot hold the next person, group, entity responsible for what the last person did to you. That's like somebody else committing a crime, or somebody commits a crime and then the next person that comes in has to serve the time for it. That's not fair. And so, but because of these things that happened to me, and I didn't realize it, I didn't recognize it until I was sitting on the couch with a therapist. And the therapist told me when I described everything that was going on, and the therapist said, "Oh, it sounds like you got abandonment issues." And I said, "No, I don't. I don't have abandonment issues because my mama was in my life, active. My daddy was in my life, active. Anything that we had going on as children, my mama and daddy were there. My mama used to say all the time, and she on the stream, she can confirm it. My mama used to say all the time, if you in a dog fight, me and your daddy gonna be there to see what happened to the dog. And so I didn't have it wasn't in my family that I experienced these things because based on what our experience would be or our understanding would be with abandonment issues, it would all stem from your mama wasn't there or your daddy wasn't there. Nope, mama and daddy was there, but the church left me. The church threw me away. The church condemned me, and it created mistrust. And so the 2 points that I want y'all to get from this podcast, and I'm done for real. The 2 points that I want y'all to get from this podcast today on how to deal with church hurt. Number 1, forgive. My common phrase that I like to use for forgiveness is build a bridge and get over it. No, and I make it sound easy. I know. I make it sound like it's so simple. I know. It's not easy. It's not simple, but it's required. Otherwise, you harbor this hurt and it creates sickness. It creates ailments in your body. It creates depression. It creates all of these other things. Let it go. Forgive them. And part of that process is find you somebody to talk to. Find a therapist, find a counselor, find another pastor that you can trust. Because just like all Walmarts are not created equal, all churches are not created equal. And you got to know what church you call to. You got to know. You got to know. But you need to, don't let the hurt from one entity affect how you deal in your spiritual life. Just because a pastor did you wrong don't mean you got to stop talking to God. That don't, because a pastor mishandled you, That doesn't mean you stop praying. That just means you pray and ask God for help to heal. You pray and you ask God for wisdom and guidance on how to move forward. You pray and you ask God to help you. And he's a good father. He'll do it. He really will. All right. I see y'all locked in here with me. I've been riding with this same number for a minute now. Yeah, it's the same number. Y'all been rocking with me. Y'all been rocking with me. So listen, do you all have y'all chime in the comments before I get out of here? I'm finna get out of here real soon though. But y'all go ahead and chime in and let me know your thoughts. Let me know. Have I said anything? Did I say something wrong? Did I say something incorrect? Y'all go ahead and check me now. I'm okay. You know, I'm gonna give it a few minutes. As they say in the church, the doors of the church are open. And listen, if you need somebody, if you're on here and you need somebody to talk to, and you can't trust somebody else, you can call me. You can talk to me. Now, hold on. Let me before y'all call me. Y'all know I work a lot, right? So you can call me. Oh, Ryan. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I got to show this. So, and since I put you on the screen, shout out to my boy Ryan Johnson. Happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday to you. Um, so your question is, I'm late, but when did tithing become monetary? Man, listen, this podcast is only supposed to be 30 minutes. And so I'm gonna have to address that topic. I'm gonna have to address that topic at another podcast. But I can tell you that there is a way that you can tithe not just money but time. Um, you can give of your time, your treasures, and your talents. But that's another podcast for another day. Um, let's see. I'm gonna show this one. Forgiveness is hard to do, but is necessary for sure. And that is an absolute truth. Forgiveness is hard, but it is necessary because if we do not forgive, then we're harboring hurt and we're harboring all of the things where we're holding on to all of that. And we need to let it go. We need to let it go. 100, what you got for me? In any other hurt scenario, we can label the exact person that hurt us. If it's the church, we label the entire entity. It's unfair. And that is correct. You are absolutely right. If a person hurts us, then we can say John hurt me or Becky hurt me. But when it comes to the church, we don't identify hold my mule while I shout Pentecostal church. We say the church as a whole. And you're exactly right. It's not fair. But that's why we have these conversations like this so that we can help people get past the hurt of an individual. Because this is the other thing. It could very well be that that was an individual in the church that hurt you, but you take that hurt and you put it on the whole church. And sometimes you just need to go to the individual and say, Sister Johnson, you stepped on my shoe. You stepped on my shoe, and I want an apology. And if Sister Johnson does not give you an apology, then you forgive Sister Johnson anyway, And when you see her walking by, move your foot out the way. And let's move on. Let's move on. Oh, I got to show this one. I got to. Y'all see that pretty lady right there? Ooh, that lady. That's a pretty lady right there. Thank you, Mama. Mama said I did good. Thank you. Keisha with the brother. Yep, I remember. I'm glad I helped you. I'm glad. I'm glad I helped you. If this platform, if in this platform, if I can help one person, then for me it was all worth it. It was all worth it. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up tonight's episode of Steph Said It. This is episode 2. Um, wow. 2 episodes in the can. That's exciting. Listen, I do want to invite you all to become a Steph Said It partner. And how can I do that? Well, first, before I jump to that slide, y'all go ahead and like, follow, and subscribe. I am Steph Said It across all social media platforms. I am Steph Said It on Facebook. Steph Said It on Instagram. Steph Said It on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Snapchat. Please go like, follow, subscribe. I do ask that you all, for those of you who have joined in, please share this podcast. Let's get it out here. Let everybody know. Steph Said It. Steph is talking out here, and from the looks of things, he got something to say. Also, I do invite you all to become Steph Said It partners. We do have 3 levels of partnership. Y'all get it? Podner, podcast, POD. Gotcha. I did it on purpose. I did not misspell it. So become Steph Said It partner. At level 1, very, very small donation. It's $5. With that $5 donation, you will be mentioned as a partner on one podcast episode in the opening segment. At level 2, which is $25, you get, for 2 episodes, you get mentioned as a sponsor in the opening segment, and you get a host read commercial during the podcast. The host read commercial will be very similar to what I did when I mentioned hashtag I'm it. And then at level 3, which is $225, you get mentioned for 4 episodes. You get a commercial at the beginning and the end of the podcast. Your logo is displayed during the entire show, and your logo is displayed on the website for 30 days. If you want more details, you can email me at stephsaidit.com, and you can send those donations via Cash App to hashtag or $ Steph Said It. Also, please feel free to follow me again. The website is live, www.stephsaidit.com. So please take a moment, go check it out. I will be uploading all of the content from today's show and last week's show. We will be uploading those onto the website, and we will be making some additions here. So yeah, I told y'all last week that we were gonna have some upgrades. Last week it was real quiet. This week we got music. This is my going out music. So listen, I want to thank you all again for joining me on the Steph Said It podcast. It has been a real conversation here in the near future. So I think I am going to go ahead and keep doing these live as long as my schedule permits. We're going to keep doing live shows. I am going to start opening it up just in case, I have some people who want to jump in and talk about what we're talking about. And we will go ahead and bring you on the show. You don't necessarily have to be in studio with me. We can do it virtual. Like we did last week, I can call you or you can call me and I can put you via phone. Or if we want to do the video and bring you all the way in the room, I can send you a link, click the link, and bring you on into the room and we can talk about some things. Please submit those letters, those topics that you want me to talk about. Submit those topics to stephsaidit@gmail.com, or you can go to the contact us portion of our website and you can send those comments that way. Anything that you want to talk about. No topic is too big, no topic is too small. We can get personal. We can talk about money. We can talk about sports, politics, cooking, relationships, church, anything you want to talk about. This is the Steps Edit podcast. If you ask me, I'll tell you. So again, I want to thank you all for taking this moment. I am 15 minutes past my show, but I think I did good because y'all still hanging in here watching with me. So once again, thank you all so much for spending this evening with me. I hope you enjoyed the show. And listen, if they ask you where you'll get your information from, you know what to tell them. Steps Edit. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you next week.